USCHO.com. This is the USCHO Spotlight, a weekly podcast from U.S. College Hockey Online at USCHO.com, featuring conversations with college hockey coaches and players and journalists who cover the sport.
Welcome to the USCHO Spotlight Podcast. I'm Ed Trefzger alongside Jim Connelly. This week, there's a new number one in the USCHO.com men's ice hockey poll, and that is St. Cloud State.
And we are joined now by the head coach of St. Cloud State. That's Brett Larson. And Brett, I take one period of hockey out of your season. You're almost a perfect team this season in terms of your record. How have you felt your team is performing on the ice thus far?
You know what? We obviously we'd be lying if we didn't say we liked where we're at in a lot of parts of our game. And the good part is, though, with periods like that, and obviously Northeastern was a very good team that night, but periods like that, a tough battle against Bemidji on Friday night, I think there's lessons to be learned all the time that, you know what, we're not where we need to be yet either. And there's still a lot of motivation in this room to keep getting better.
I look at score results and, there was one game, a 7-0 win over Boston College. That was a bit of a blowaway, and 5-0 win over Northern. But a lot of close games, and your team has performed well in those close games. I think of that Denver series and the ability to come from behind. That, as a coach, I know you don't like to fall behind, you don't like to chase the game, but when you see a team that can find a way to win games, that has to be encouraging.
Yeah, that's obviously a huge key for us. It's been the ability to not get rattled, and I really liked what I've seen from the group. Obviously, there's really good leadership here, a lot of guys that have been through it before. Obviously, playing in our league, it's usually a one-goal game every night in the third period, so we've kind of joked after the second period every night, well, let's get used to it, because it's going to be this way all year. Learning how to play those tight games and be able to stick to your game plan and not get rattled is really important as you continue to try to push to get better. So we feel like there's been some good learning lessons early, and obviously we've been fortunate to be able to rally back a few times and get a few wins.
I look at your scoring at this point in the season, and obviously only 12 games in, but you look at a lot of the top scorers, seniors and juniors, Nolan Walker, the freshman, obviously having a great season as well, but a lot of experienced players, a lot of upperclassmen being able to lead the way. A first-year head coach, as you are, does that help to have a locker room with good leadership, obviously not just in the locker room, but out on the ice, performing night after night?
Yeah, I can't tell you how much that helps. Obviously, in my situation, for being a first-year head coach here and having the type of leadership we have, starting with Jimmy Schultz and just the way he handles himself on and off the ice, and obviously a lot of the other guys too that have just stepped up and been a big part of it here, whether it's Patrick Newell and Robbie Jackson or John Lazat on defense, or I could go on and on about the upperclassmen and how they play, but it's not only that. They've been a part of a culture here that's been very successful in the past, and coming in, I certainly didn't want to change a lot. Things have been going in the right direction, and those guys, I think, have really helped me come into their culture and then find little ways that I can bring in little tweaks here and there to that culture, and they've been great that way. They're winners for sure. They've learned how to do it in the past, and obviously they've been very helpful here starting the year.
Well, with a couple of stints at your alma mater for 2 national championships and then time in the USHL and Ohio State, what are some things that you've brought with you from those experiences that help you out as a head coach now at St. Cloud?
Well, I think the big thing that I learned, obviously working under Scott Sandlin at Duluth, was kind of that sense of, always pushing to try to get better. Even when things seem to be rolling well, sometimes that's the time to push the team even more and trying to get more out of them and never kind of allowing that sense of we've arrived. I know one thing about college hockey is right now, certainly it's nice to be ranked where we are, but the fact of the matter is it's going to be a race to see who gets better from here on out. And I think I learned that from obviously working with Scott, where he continually pushed that group at Duluth to get better, never let them let up. Certainly love to have them enjoy the game and have fun playing hockey, but it was a constant race to see if we could keep getting better throughout the year. And that's a mentality I'm trying to bring here to St. Cloud as well, especially since I've inherited just such a good group. The challenge is to take a a great group and try to make them even better.
You mentioned inheriting a great team.
Yep.
It's a team that saw its season end prematurely last year in the first round of the NCAAs. Is there some extra hunger on the squad to get back there?
I'd say extra hunger is taking it mildly. It's a huge hunger. I think it's the fuel and pretty much every one of these returning guys, and that's rubbed off on me actually, and it's rubbed off on freshmen as well. It's a massive hunger. I guess I don't even overstate that, but it's these guys. It was painful for them last year, and that pain is definitely something that's motivating these guys every day.
We're talking with Brett Larson from St. Cloud State, and Brett, when I look at this program, I look at a team that you talk about hunger, but it's a program that has had such great support in Minnesota, a state that obviously loves hockey and has been so close so many times. There was a lot of times that they just couldn't win an NCAA game. Now they've started to win games, and now it's just trying to get to that next level. How much does the fan support and the community support really drive this team night in, night out?
Well, it does a lot, and I can tell you it's a lot more fun being on the home bench than it is on the away bench in this place. It's a building where, the fans they're knowledgeable too. That's what I like. So it's not just the energy on the goals and assists or big hits or things that, most fans cheer for, but last weekend we had a forechecker on the penalty kill, just doing a great job, and the place was on their feet for a forecheck in the PK, and just their knowledge of the game here in Minnesota, and obviously in this area, which it's a hockey town and a hockey school, and that's exciting, and that the guys feed off that, and they can sense it, and this building can really create waves of energy, and I experienced it on the other side, and I mean if St. Cloud scored a goal or two, you could feel that wave building, and you knew you're in big trouble. You were trying to get through that first period, keeping it close, because if you didn't, you knew that this building would just create a ton of energy for the home team.
Brett, we were talking on our Sunday night podcast weekend review a little bit about the fact that your team is going to go into what I guess in football they call a bye weekend, but you're off this weekend. You're playing incredibly well. I know some coaches welcome that time off. Maybe it's a chance to heal some injuries. Do you almost wish you could keep playing this week because your team is playing so well?
Yeah. A lot of people have asked that, but the other part of what you said is kind of true for us right now. You got a lot of these nagging little injuries that kind of build up through a 12-game run, and we had a lot of travel early, and to be honest, I think the team is really welcoming the week off, and it's been kind of just a breath of fresh air. We're getting guys from rehab, obviously kind of allowing the brain to rest a little bit too, and take care of some things away from the rink for these guys to make sure school's in order, but not just that constant grind of hockey every day. I think the break came at a good time for us.
What does this week then look like for you? Is it a reduced number of practices, maybe more time weight room, maybe more time in the trainer's room for some guys? What does this type of week look like?
You know what? Definitely some more time in the training room, rehab, recovery, that type of thing. You try to make practices as fun as you can and just try to keep them sharp. So we just had a day today where we played 3 different small area games, and there was a little skate in between each game for some conditioning, and the losing team had a little extra skate in each one of those. So it was about an hour of practice with a lot of tempo, some compete, but mostly fun. That's kind of what we'd like to do to keep the guys going that way, and then we'll practice here through Wednesday, and then let them go home for Thanksgiving and enjoy some time with their family and recover over the weekend and be ready to go next week.
You just mentioned something that's really interesting, talking about playing small area games. And Dave Starman, a good friend of our show and a good friend of college hockey, talks about that as being a great skill developer. I know I have a 5-year-old that plays youth hockey, and I can't stand anytime they put a 200-foot ice surface out there. They should be playing in a small area. But what about those games at the college level is such a good developer of skills?
It's a great developer of skills, and the guys didn't even realize they went out and got better today. In all honesty, they worked hard and they had a lot of fun, and they obviously you're playing a lot of small area 2-on-2, 3-on-2, things change quickly. And we played a few different types of games. One, a transition game, so you're really attacking and back checking. Well, I could have run a bunch of back checking drills, and they could have been bored to death this week out there. But instead, they're doing it within a game where they're competing, and they don't even realize they're working on it sometimes. So it's a great way to change up practice, to keep working on the skill development. But you know what? These guys, you want your guys having fun coming to the rink too. And I can tell you the energy and the excitement level and the fun level out there today was really high, but so was the work ethic level. And we got better in some areas. So it's just a great way to change up practice, continue to develop, and keep the guys engaged and having some fun.
This is the USCHO Spotlight, a weekly podcast from US College Hockey Online.
We're talking with Brett Larson, head coach at St. Cloud State. Your first time as an assistant at Duluth was in the old WCHA, and now you've been an assistant and now a head coach in the new NCHC. How can you compare those, and what's it like preparing for so many games against such tough competition?
Yeah, I mean, obviously both great leagues. WCHA was great. This league is equally as good, and it's one of those deals where, and you mentioned the bye weekend or the break weekend here for us. Man, it's nice to take a deep breath once in a while, because it's like Groundhog's Day every Monday morning, where you're going, oh boy, we got another tough weekend. There's never one, there's never an easy weekend coming up. And I do think though that really pushes the staff and the players never to get comfortable. You can't ever let the foot off the gas. You got to keep pushing, from the teaching to the video to the practices, all those things to the workouts, everything. You know that you have to stay at the top. You need to keep pushing, because if you let up for a second, any team in this league is going to beat you. If you don't bring your best, you're going to lose. So the fact of the matter is, the thing I love about this league is every weekend pushes you to be your best, which I think makes the league that's so good, where these players develop and keep getting better. Because of that feel, you can't ever let up.
You mentioned any team in your league can beat you. You're going to play not this weekend, but next weekend, a Miami team that I think has maybe surprised a few people and is playing some of their better hockey in the last few years, certainly since their NCHC membership started right now. And that's a team that you'll face next weekend. What are your thoughts on Miami?
Well, they're out. You know what? It's funny because, in this league, somebody ends up down in one of those bottom spots, and everybody knows that one day there's hardly any difference, to be honest. And we know we're going to go in there, and it's no different than going to any other team in our league, and because the standings don't really matter. We played games when I was at Duluth last year against Miami. They were some of the toughest games. I know Miami came in here to St. Cloud to play at the end of last year, 1-8, beat them in overtime, and almost took them in game 3. So our players remember that as well from the end of last year. So the real good thing is there's never taken anybody lightly. So going to Miami, we know it's going to be a playoff atmosphere from a standpoint for us. We know we've only got 4 games left before a big Christmas break. We've got 2 on the road, 2 at home. We need to make a good push in the league to put ourselves where we want to be going into that break. So for us, it's going to be a huge challenge. We know it. Miami plays hard all the time, and they're tough to play in their building for sure. So we know it's going to be a big challenge.
St. Cloud State, the number 1 team in the country right now. They will get this weekend off, a relax weekend, for maybe not too relaxed, but at least a rehab weekend for the Huskies. Brett Larson, thanks so much for your time. Best of luck the rest of the way. Enjoy the holidays as well.
Same to you guys. Thanks for having me.
That's St. Cloud State head coach Brett Larson in his first year behind the bench, filling some big shoes formerly filled by Bob Motzko, but it seems like the Huskies are off to a terrific start, Jim.
They really are, and I'm very interested in the fact that he talked about the fact that this break that they have this weekend is welcome. We had talked on Sunday night about the fact that, wow, when you're 11-1, sometimes you just want to keep playing, but a mash unit is a mash unit sometimes, and you just want to get into that training room and heal those small bruises, heal those pains and all of that sort of stuff. And if this team continues to play, if they get stronger because they took a break, that's pretty incredible, because at 11-1, this is one of college hockey's best teams.
Well, I suppose it's sort of like the end of the season when you're heading into playoffs. You've played several weeks straight. You get those nagging injuries. Getting a week off to heal up may be the difference in a few wins or a few losses.
I think that's certainly true. And when you look at what they're going to go into, they have 2 more weeks, 1 on the road, 1 at home, before then they get the long break heading into the holidays. This could be a really key week for them to just refocus, recenter, and like I said, if they come back bigger and stronger, this is a team to watch.
First-year head coach Brett Larson in the spotlight. For Jim Connelly, I'm Ed Trefzger, and we'll catch you next time.
This has been the USCHO Spotlight, a production of U.S. College Hockey Online. Visit uscho.com/podcasts to listen or subscribe.